Hello, and welcome to this week's Amuse Bouche, where I am giving you little little tips to help you be a better leader, to be a more confident leader, and to really help you to build an amazing team in your business. These are just little snippets, just like an Amuse Bouche is that you get in a restaurant. It's a little bite before the big meal. So that's what I wanted to do here. Just a little creative twist on, really going live and giving you some tips. So, um, I wanted to talk today, as we're talking about restaurant terms, to talk about what it really takes to create a great experience in your business and why it's important as a leader to really focus on experience. I know you hear a lot about it, all over the place about, creating an experience. You need to focus on the experience. And, I've had clients of mine that have said, I'm not really sure exactly like how to do this or what it means. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. If you look at really what is the definition of experience, like what does it really mean? Really, just in a nutshell, it's an event or an occurrence that leaves a lasting impression. So, no matter what you're doing in your business to create that lasting impression for people, there's certain things that we want to focus on, that we want to really hone in on and really focus on, so we can create that lasting impression. Maya Angelou said long ago, it's not necessarily what someone says, okay, that people remember. It's how you make them feel. That's what they remember. And that's exactly what an experience does. It gives people, it gives them some kind of a transformation. It makes them feel a certain way. And people remember that long after the interaction they had with you. If you make think about it. If you make someone feel junky, like, they're going to remember that. But if you make them feel really good, they might not necessarily remember exactly what you said, but they're going to remember how they felt in your presence. So we're going to I'm going to give you 7 things to think about when you are focusing on creating an experience. And I also want to tell you, experience isn't just about the customer. It actually starts with your team. And the more we can focus on creating that amazing impression and and make our team feel good, the more we can do that inside of our business, the more we're going to be able to impact people and make that impact outside of our business. I always say customer experience doesn't start with the customer, it starts with our team. And this is something that I implement in the businesses that I run, but it's something that I have been teaching for a very, very long period of time. And how it all started, why creating an experience is so, so important to me. It actually started long ago when I sold shoes. I was 18 years old. Actually, I think I started there when I was 17. And it wasn't just a shoe store that I worked in. If you've ever heard me talk about the Greek shoe king, I worked for a gentleman who was Greek, and he owned a shoe store. And this shoe store, it wasn't just about selling shoes. We created a huge experience there. And this was long ago. And it wasn't just about, and these were high-end shoes. They were not cheap shoes. They were expensive. They were like $400 shoes. And this was back in the 90s. So it wasn't just about selling those shoes. What it was about is creating an experience for people so that they felt better. Because if you had problems with your feet or problems with your knees or problems with your back, problems with your hips, whatever it was, you were in pain, you didn't feel good. And his goal was to sell shoes and create an experience that made people feel good. And not just did it make the customer feel good, but the experience that he created in the business for his employees, it made them feel good. Why? Number one, he focused on knowledge. He focused on teaching us about the shoes, about different problems that people would have, and how we compare the two together to help someone feel good. He also gave us two free pairs of shoes per quarter. So that's 8 pairs of shoes in 1 year. And why? Because if we wore shoes that felt good to us, we wore those shoes on a regular basis and could talk about like how they helped us, then we'd be able to sell more shoes, right? So it empowered us. It empowered us to use our knowledge to help other people. So that was my real first experience, or my real first experience creating an experience. But really, what were the different elements that went into creating a great experience, one that transforms, one that inspires, one that educates, with the internal part of your business, with your team, and then with the external, with your customer. So often when we hear experience, we hear it about, we just hear about the customer, or we just hear about the team. But what we're going to talk about today is how we bring the two together. So the second part of me really focusing, that was the first piece. And from that experience that he was able to create, and we all created, selling shoes, but also, like I said, it was more about helping people to be pain-free, helping people to feel good because their feet felt good. And if your feet felt good, you were balanced. Your whole body got balanced. And you just felt, like I said, you just felt better because you had less pain, right? So, but not only did we create that experience, but creating that amazing experience for the team and for the customers created an amazing community, which is also what comes out of experience. Creating an amazing environment where everyone can grow, creating an amazing environment where everybody can feel lifted up, which creates a great community. And when you have a great community and you're surrounded in a very positive, inspiring environment, amazing things can happen, right? We feel good as people. We can grow as people. And then from there, we can do more things. We can achieve dreams. We can do, we can achieve amazing things. We can achieve success. So creating an experience, it goes a lot further than, just having, having the inside of your business look good, or, whatever it is. There's a lot of different elements that go into it. So that's where my desire to create an amazing experience started, just from working for the magical Greek shoe king. So that was number one. Number two, it ended up going over when I worked in corporate America. And when I worked in corporate, I planned sales events. And if you're a salesperson and you're listening to this, or if you're an executive and you've been to regular events many times over, they can be dry. They can just be, it was sharing sales numbers, sharing success stories, talking about sales tips, and it was just very dry. So I remember when I started planning these meetings, I remember my boss saying to me, we need to do something different. We need to spruce this up. We need to have it be more engaging. We need to make it more exciting so people want to come to these events. And let me tell you, when I started planning these sales events, vendors, once they got wind of some of the new stuff that we were doing, by creating an engaging and entertaining and educational experience, vendors were like, hey, when's your next sales meeting? Can I come? Can I be on the list? I want to be on the list. Again, because we did things that were different. Instead of just having somebody lecture about specs of equipment, instead of doing that, what we did is we made it into, we would take different games that were out there, and we made Jeopardy. It was like Incubator Jeopardy, or it was Biosafety Cabinet Wheel of Fortune. We used to make it engaging and creative and entertaining, because when they were fully immersed in this experience, the information that they were getting it would integrate in that they were able to remember it, right? So sales reps that were struggling to sell a biosafety cabinet, when we did it this way and we took the information that they needed to learn and we paired it with something fun, it integrated because they would be laughing. We'd be playing this crazy game, if you've ever watched Wheel of Fortune. And it was entertaining and it stuck because it was creating a memorable event, which is something else that we want to focus on. So I planned so many sales meetings, and it was from the food to the way the room was set up to the events that we had at the experience that really made it memorable and had it leave an impression. So that's where the two things that I experienced. The third thing was when I started my first business, and my business partner and I opened up a retail store, and we didn't want it to just be just another retail store where you were selling, we were selling jewelry, handmade jewelry, and we were selling accessories, handbags and socks and scarves and stuff. So when we did this, I thought back to all of my history creating these experiences, not just for the team, but also for customers. Because we'll go back to when I worked in laboratory equipment and I was planning these sales meetings. What happened was, as we were doing these sales meetings and creating these memorable experiences, then the sales reps were able to interact with customers, people who were doing research, people who were purchasing agents. They were able to interact with them at a much different level. They were able to create a better experience. And the fact that they had all this extra knowledge and it was integrating, so they were remembering it, and they were remembering it in a way that they could then explain it to the customer in a deeper manner. Okay. They could detail out the specs of something and not just like spit out specs of a piece of equipment, but then tell them, here's how you would use it and here's why it's important. So they started to learn the why behind stuff. Okay. And it created a much more empowered experience with the customers that they were working with. And at the time, we were a smaller business, even though it was a multi-million dollar business. We were smaller compared to these larger public corporations, but we were able to compete with them, and we were able to continue to grow because we created these amazing experiences and because we were able to empower people who were working with them every day with knowledge, with engagement, with innovation. So fast forward, I opened my first business, and we're getting ready to, we're planning out our business plan and doing all these things. And I was remembering back to selling shoes and the Greek Shoe King. And as a leader, what he did to create an amazing experience for his team, who could also then create an amazing experience for the customers, for the doctors that we worked with, for the podiatrists, and start to really build this community. So I looked at that and examined that and said, okay, what were the elements of this? Then what happened when I was planning sales meetings and how I was able to really get the information to integrate with the sales reps. So then we could then have a higher engagement with customers. And I put the pieces together and said, for our store, here's the experience that we want to create for inside of our business. But then how are we going to use this to then create an amazing experience for our customers and for these artisans who at the time, many of them didn't have websites. They didn't have any marketing materials. They were very small, super creative, but really needed a way to get their voice out, to get their creations out, to get their art out. And we became that voice. We became the one that could help amplify their message and really have people be able to see their creativity and their work that could really make an impact with them. So taking all of these pieces together, as a leader, the one question you want to ask yourself, and this is the question that when I look back at the Greek Shoe King and I look back at my days as a when I was a director of marketing and operations, when I was planning all of these sales meetings, these huge sales meetings, when I think about it, as a leader, the one question we want to ask ourselves as we're putting together these experiences for inside of our business with our team to really elevate that, build loyalty, to build trust, so we can then push it outside and impact in our community with our customers and our vendors and just the businesses that are around us. So, the first question, the most important question you want to ask yourself as a leader is, what is that, if you had to say in one sentence, that difference that you want to make and that future that you want to create with what you do outside of your product or service? What would that one sentence be? What is that one sentence that defines the difference that you want to make for people beyond the food that you sell, the products the food that you make and sell, the products that you might sell, the service that you might deliver on a daily basis? What is that bigger thing that defines the future that you want to build and the difference that you want to make? So that's the first question you want to ask yourself, and write it down and really like let that sink in and let that resonate. Because when you can understand the why, the because, as my friend Mick says, if you can understand what that is and you know what that is, the product and the service is the vehicle to make that happen. So this is the first element in creating experience inside your business and outside of your business. A lot of people want to just start with the experience, but they don't really understand why they do what they do. So when you can understand that, and I'll give you an example. First of all, if you can understand that and answer that question, the second question is, does your team really know what that is? So creating an experience, if your team doesn't understand what that North Star is, what that defining sentence, that one true sentence, as one of my mentors calls it, when you're creating your signature story, what is that one true sentence for you as far as that difference that you want to make in your business? And once you can answer that question, you also have to ask yourself, does the rest of your team know what that is? So if the answer is no, we need to communicate that, right? So asking those two super important questions, that will then help you to design and create that experience inside of your business and outside of your business. So one of the businesses that I run is a restaurant. And I talk about, if you follow me, I talk about it a lot. I'm super passionate about it. I have an amazing team that I work with on a daily basis. And we talk a lot about, and I actually just met with my team yesterday, and we were talking a lot about the experience that we want to create at the restaurant. And that it's not just about the food that we serve or the fact that we have 225 whiskeys. It's not about that. It's about educating people on the culture behind the business, educating people on the recipes, educating people on the why in the business. And then from there, all of the activities that we do end up supporting the experience that we're trying to create. Because when people come there, we want them to like have their senses like delighted. We want them to invoke their senses, right? Have it really smell good when you walk in the door. I mean, like, who doesn't like smelling like fresh baked bread or fresh baked, whatever, or fresh coffee, fresh brewed coffee? Like, it smells amazing, right? So, what is that experience that we're trying to create? What is that difference that we're trying to make? And then from there, again, it's the experience. What do we want it to smell like? What do we want it to look like? What do we want our team, like the people who are, serving the food or cooking the food, or how do we want them to show up? But we got to understand, what is that difference that we're trying to make first? And then everything else stems from it, right? So we had this conversation yesterday, and it was like, okay, let's go back because there has been so much adversity, because there has been so much challenge and change and ups and downs and, you name it, a lot of times we get away from that one true sentence of this is the difference that we're trying to make. And then we try and end up building things. We build offers, we build sales, we bring in new product, and we end up doing things in a vacuum instead of getting that clarity on what is the difference that we're trying to make first, and then building everything off of it, right? So ask yourself those two questions first. Then what we want to do is we want to really start to think about the wow factor that we want to build, right? So when we are creating these experiences, we want it to follow a path. We want it to be positive language, positive sensory, if you can say. So what is it going to feel like inside of the business? All right. What is it going to feel like inside of that experience? Then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have alignment. We have alignment to that one true sentence that we're coming up with. All right. That alignment to the vision that we have and the difference that we're trying to make. If you're creating an experience, if your difference is to educate people, but you're creating an experience that's like overwhelms the senses and doesn't educate, there's no alignment, right? So it's not going to work right. So we want to make sure that we have alignment in there. We want to make sure that it creates a transformation and builds trust. And this, again, is for our most important stakeholders, which are our employees, all right, our team, and the people that we serve outside of our business, our community, and our customers, right? So we want to make sure that we are creating some kind of a transformation, and a transformation that builds trust. And we do that by education. We do that we can do it with entertainment. We can do it with bringing in creativity. So we also want to make sure that we're humanizing it. And we humanize it by making it memorable, by making it custom, by seeing people, everything that we've talked about in what it takes to really be a great leader today. So we humanize it by really focusing on what does the other person need? What is the other person? What is the other side of you? What is the other, what do you want it to be on the other side of your leadership? Or what do you want it to be? What do you want it to feel like on the other side of the service? What do you want it to feel like? What do you want the customer to feel when they're experiencing your business? So we want to make sure that we're bringing in that human element. We want to make sure that we are customizing the experience and making sure we understand what it is that our team needs. And we also understand what it is that our customer needs. And we make sure that we are doing things, we're educating and being creative and bringing in innovation into our business that allows our team to grow, but it also allows our customer to grow with us. So we want to make sure that we have that humanized element when we're creating these experiences. This is what I call the wow factor. It is something that I work on building with my clients. I build it in the businesses, that I lead. But this is one of the main things that we focus on building when you work with me one-to-one as a business advisor. So again, when we put all these things together, when we get super clear on why we do what we do and the difference that we want to make, and we make sure that our team understands that as well, and then we can co-create this transformational and memorable and positive, aligned, innovative and inspiring, humanized and engaged experience, that's when everything elevates. And that's when you can really separate yourself from everybody else and carve your own path. So I hope that this helped you. And what it also does is it creates a business that has growth. It creates a business that you have sustainability, so that you're not just building for today, you're building for the future. And you also create a business that's completely agile, one that can shift as things shift, and one that, no matter what the external impacts are from the economy or, whatever's happening, it doesn't impact what you're doing inside. You can continue to stay above the line and continue to create an amazing experience inside of your business, but also have an impact outside of your business. So I hope that this helped you. This is something I am super passionate about. And honestly, we just scratched the surface on this. I went really fast because you can go super deep on this. And it's something I'm super passionate about because I've been creating experiences for 30 years. So that being said, over 30 years, oh my gosh, how old am I? Over 30 years, 35 years. Wow. Anyway, I hope that this helped you. If you are interested in really going deep on this, let's jump on a strategy call. So we will put the link down below. You can book I call it a virtual coffee. I am super into food if you haven't figured that out. But I hope that if you are interested in going deeper on this, let's jump on a call, a strategy call, have a virtual coffee. Let's talk about where you are, talk about maybe where you're stuck, where the gaps are, and then we can start to build a plan so that you can create an amazing experience in your business. But until next week, I hope that this little Amuse Bouche really got your palate excited. And I hope that it helped you. And I hope it gave you a little bit more tips on what you can do, first and foremost, to really be a great leader and really focus on what do you want that experience to be on the other side of your leadership, with your team, with your community, with your customers. So till next week, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you soon.